Are you in contact with children who may use lying and storytelling in a bid to impress others? Then this video is for you.
The behaviour we're going to look at today is young people who tell lies in a bid to impress. And we saw this coming from a place where sometimes young people have not had the opportunity to exert their identity separate from others and have their identity wrapped up in pleasing others. And so any opportunity that there is to please others, whether it be telling a story or real embellishment, they take that opportunity as it really affirms who they are, which is a person that pleases others. So two key affirmations, which I believe would be key when dealing with this type of behavior, is you can learn what is pretend and what is real, and you can try out different ways of being powerful. So my first tip / strategy, which I would use, is try to have, if possible, regular small sessions where talents and abilities can be explored and affirmed. And again, the easiest way for me to illustrate this would be with a story from one of my students. So one of my students, he was a real big storyteller. He would tell us he was part of this gang, he was doing this on the weekend, he was doing that on the weekend. And as we dug into it, we found out that a lot of it was just complete lies. He was at home reading a book, or he would say he went there and he was at home eating dinner. And what we started to realize as we really tried to reflect on it was he had a real sense of not knowing who he was, and a real sense of believing that his identity was wrapped up in pleasing others. And that really reframed how we thought that we should deal with the situation. So what we began to do is once or twice a week, we had a men's breakfast. And it was important to have it framed as a men's breakfast with him, as we felt that the input that he needed was more from a male figure than possibly the female figures that have been in his life. And during that time, the whole session was purely based on his talents, his abilities, and us affirming him, and us really starting to think of ways that he can pursue his dreams and think of ways in which he can reach his goals. And as we continued to have this breakfast with him, he really started to see the value in him just being himself, and really saw that there were people that would take a genuine interest in who he was, his talents, and they would actually be engaged and be pleased to hear what he had to say. And since that point, in terms of his behavior, it has improved immensely. In terms of his storytelling, it is almost non-existent, and we feel it is really because he feels that he doesn't need to anymore, because he believes now that his talents, who he is enough to impress, and who he is enough to hold the attention of others. Therefore, he feels much more affirmed in terms of his identity being separate from others. And the last strategy which I would use with this type of behavior is it's really important for us to encourage honesty by not taking part in storytelling. And the way that I see it is, if you know your student or your young person is making up stories, it's very important that as the educator, as the parent, that you're not playing into it, that you're not encouraging it, as it can sometimes show them that this is a way to get affirmation, this is a way to get attention from others. Therefore, you may be unconsciously telling them that this is how they should be. So in terms of one of my students, when he began to storytell, and we knew because of communication with parents that it was absolutely false, we would really try and shut it down and really kind of let him know that what you're saying is not actually true. And there were moments where he got a little bit upset, he felt embarrassed. And in those moments, it was really key for us to really let him know that you don't need to impress us, and we like you as you are. And I feel the more that we were able to do that, he began to understand that, number one, when he tells those stories, he's not going to get the recognition that he's craving for. And number two, that we are impressed when he's just who he is. That when he shows up as who he wants to be and doesn't have to try and please others, that is what really brightens up our day, and that is the person that we want to engage with. So yeah, cool guys, those are a couple strategies. I hope they are helpful. And as always, in our next video, we're going to be moving on to the next stage within the cycle of development, which is skills and structure. So as we do, we will be looking at some jobs of the child and some behaviors which may be indications that the child is having some difficulties within this area. So guys, if you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please leave a comment and share this video. And as always, I will see you next week.